Hi, I'm Sam Diercks.
And I'm Addie House.
And welcome to another episode of CPTV. In this episode, we'll learn about some outstanding athletes at SHS,
some trivia about our principal,
how students and staff feel about President Trump,
and how students feel about gun violence.
Outstanding athletes Robbie Johnson and Hiram Hunsaker have been recognized for their outstanding seasons this past winter. Here's how.
Senior Hiram Hunsaker was recently nominated for the Idaho Hall of Fame Classic, which takes place over the weekend in Boise. Hiram was nominated after he defeated a Post Falls wrestler who had won the Tri-State Championship.
The Hall of Fame duel, it's fairly new. It's only about 5 or 6 years old. And the two best wrestlers at each weight, doesn't matter any classification, could be 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A, 5A, get chosen by the coaches in Idaho to come wrestle in the Hall of Fame duel, which is put on by the Hall of Fame coaches of Idaho Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Coach Stark believes Hiram is well deserving of the nomination.
Hiram's just a natural born leader, on and off the mat. He knows what it takes to get the job done, and his years of experience wrestling, in club seasons has definitely paid off. And he just got a great attitude, fun guy to be around, and I'm proud of him. Actually, Coach Randall's nominated Hiram because after he beat that guy at last week or at the North Idaho Rumble, he beat him and got nominated. So.
Hunsaker attributes most of his success to his leadership role that he took on at the beginning of the season.
I feel that what I've been doing is, first of all, not getting injured like last year. And then what's helped me is, since taking a leadership role, being a senior, having to teach other wrestlers how to do certain moves has helped me learn how to do the moves better myself and how to better perform in my matches. Actually, it's kind of shocking to me. I've never really thought of myself as like a really good wrestler and not thought about being like the top in the state, and it's kind of surprising, but it really shows like how far I've become as a person and as a all-around wrestler.
Senior basketball player Robbie Johnson just won IEL MVP for his outstanding play in district games.
It feels great. It feels great to be recognized and to be named the best boys basketball player out of the 3 teams in our league. I feel like I put up fairly consistent numbers, played hardest every game. So you can score all the points we want and to be named MVP, but it's better to be a teammate and a leader on your team.
Well, I think Robbie's probably definitely the best defensive player in the IEL. He works hard every day, and he averaged 14 points and 7 rebounds per game. And the coaches from Moscow and Lakeland both told me that when they game plan for Sandpoint, that's the number one thing they have to worry about is dealing with Robbie's scoring and his defense.
Recently, the Cedar Post has sat down with our principal, Tom Albertson, to learn some interesting facts about him. Here it is.
I think he graduated in 1987.
1979.
1963.
I'd have to say about 1980.
It was 85 or 83.
1979. 1967.
2000?
1982.
Okay, I think it was the same year as Mrs. Stockman, and I think they're both 6 years older than me, which would make it 82. Unless they're both 4 years older than me, in which case it would be 84. I'm gonna go with class of 82.
What year did you graduate high school?
1982.
Julian, what do you think you wanted to be?
A skyscraper window washer.
I believe he wanted to be an entrepreneur and own his own business.
An astronaut.
I'm thinking prison guard.
A rapper.
I'd have to say probably a pizza delivery man.
I think he wanted to be like a fireman.
A doctor.
Probably a school counselor, but with really long hair.
A veterinarian.
What did you dream of becoming when you were a young child?
Veterinarian.
I think Mr. Albertson has 3 cows.
15. I think he's got about 30 head of cattle. 32. We'll go 32.
575.
12. 4.
20.
237. How many cows do you have?
42.
I think his favorite show is Keeping Up with the Kardashians.
Keeping Up with the Kardashians.
I think it would be The Bachelorette.
I have to say Barney.
I'm gonna go with Friends.
Curious George.
Full House.
Dora the Explorer.
I have to say Family Feud.
I think it's either the Molly B. Polka Hour or the bull auctions on the Rural America Network.
Shark Tank.
What's your favorite TV show now?
Shark Tank.
I recently got the opportunity to sit down with students and staff and ask their opinions about how President Trump has been doing this past year. Check it out. Since Donald Trump took office over a year ago, there have been plenty of controversies and debates surrounding his presidency. People form their own opinions on whether they think he's a good or bad president. Cedar Post took to the halls of Sandpoint High School to figure out students' opinions on Donald Trump.
All right, honestly, what I feel about Donald Trump is he's 50-50. Either way, he's a good president and he's a bad president. Like, one of the reasons why he's a good president is because he's trying to change a lot of things in this world that Obama made worse, like Obamacare and all that.
I feel like as President of the United States, he should probably be a little more responsible with his use of social media and how he presents himself in news reports and interviews.
The bad thing is he wants to put a tax break for rich people. Like, I think we need that more.
I feel that Donald Trump is a good guy. He's a good president, and my reason being is because he doesn't care like what he says. He doesn't care if he offends anybody, like just all that stuff. Trump 2020.
He puts his foot in his mouth a lot, but other than that, he's done pretty good for the economy. It's been getting a lot better since the past 2 presidents.
I absolutely hate Trump as a president. He needs to learn his boundaries with not only his roles as in the government, but also with people in general.
He could be doing a little better on his promises and maybe just saying less stupid stuff. That would help. But other than that, he hasn't been doing anything too wrong.
Donald Trump is one of the most popular topics for conversation since he began his campaign for presidency. This leads to the question of, is it important and appropriate for politics to be discussed in a classroom setting? Cedar Post talked to teachers to figure out their opinions on this question.
As an educational setting, it's freedom of speech is always a great learning moment. I think from my standpoint as a principal and guiding staff members, it's important that the adults don't influence their view of politics, but they could guide the conversation so that freedom of speech is expressed.
X plus 2, are those like variables? I can't talk about politics in Algebra 1 because there's no politics to discuss. However, in my statistics class, we might talk about why did all the pollsters get the election wrong? They all thought Obama was going to win. They only called people that had landlines. Who has a landline these days? Or in my statistics class, we might look at the crisis in Flint, Michigan. How likely is it would their samples show that much lead is in the water?
I think it is important to discuss politics often in the classroom. Specifically in a classroom like mine, it's social studies, and whether we are talking about imperialism during World War I or talking about the Cold War, the Great Depression, decisions that are made for our country are political decisions in all of those circumstances. And obviously, politics today affect our lives whether we like it or not.
So you're talking like more current event in terms of like what are the activities, like what are the laws that are being passed. Then I think like it's all contextual. If that's a government class, I think that's probably most of the discussion. If it's a sociology class, I think that's very pertinent in terms of you're talking like how different groups of people are interacting. If you're talking a math class, I don't really understand how that could be of preeminence. Now I think that is an important part of education, and like any teacher is a teacher of everything in some ways, right?
In AP statistics, I can talk about politics every day because I can listen to the radio in the morning. I can find out what findings of scientists are making the news.
I think they need to be discussed, but they need to be discussed in an educational, academic way, so we are being respectful of each other and we are keeping it factual rather than just how we feel. And if we can do that, well, and I try to do that in my classroom, and we discuss politics in one way or another very often.
So I think there's a place for it, but I think the time spent on it is determined by the context.
Claire Keener and Sadie Brass took to the halls of Sandpoint High School to interview students about recent gun violence. Here are their thoughts.
Do you think that there should be stricter gun laws?
It's a difficult question. It depends on what you classify as stricter. If we get rid of AR-15s or hunting rifles, or should we just stick to handguns? Because handguns are the main cause of homicide, and it includes suicides as well. Handguns do and are the most dangerous weapon statistically in America. A lot of mass shootings are committed with the AR-15, but there's such things as bump stocks and stuff like that, so it depends.
A bill in Alabama is being proposed to allow teachers to carry guns in school. If this bill is passed, do you think the outcome could be harmful or effective?
To be effective. It really depends on how they execute it. If they train the teachers accordingly. If you don't train, like, guns can be clumsy. You can accidentally shoot someone that you're not meaning to shoot, and it would definitely be hard to it would be hard to point out a shooter and see the shooter. So they would have to be trained very, very well.
Do you believe in the Second Amendment?
Yeah, I believe in the Second Amendment because it's gotten America this far, and it's there for a purpose, and I definitely believe that we all have the right to own guns. But in contrast to that, I think that we need to not hammer down, but have more strict gun laws, because clearly something's going wrong, and I definitely don't think we should take away our right to have guns, but I think that we need to just be more aware and have a little bit more regularity around it. Yeah.
Do you think that there should be stricter gun laws?
No, because if a guy wants to get a gun or anybody wants to get a gun, it's going to be easy.
What do you think that we as a country can do to prevent gun violence?
Honestly, I feel if you were to put more weapons on people, that more criminals would understand that if they were to do something bad or to harm anybody, that they'd probably end up getting shot.
Do you think that there should be stricter gun laws?
I definitely think that there are certain people who shouldn't have the rights to possess a gun. And I do think that there are certain guns that shouldn't be available to the public.
Right. Will you be participating in the nationwide school walkouts?
Yeah, I think it's really important to make our generation's voices heard in this matter. And even if you're not really making any concrete actions, you're still showing that other people that this is a problem that we need to participate in and not just sit on the sidelines.
Do you think that there should be stricter gun laws?
No, I do not believe that there should be stricter gun laws because I don't think guns are the problem. I think that it's the people who are shooting up the schools that are the problem.
What do you think we as a country can do to prevent gun violence?
I think we should definitely have more regulation on who can buy guns and who can sell them. And I know there's some controversy criminals will still be able to obtain guns illegally, but because it will be harder to get them legally, we will be able to arrest them when they are found in possession of an illegal gun.
Mm-hmm. So a series of national school walkouts will be taking place starting March 14th. Do you think you'll participate?
Absolutely. I think it's important as the incoming generation for us to speak our minds and really stand up for the causes we believe in, and obviously this is not okay and we need to say something about it.
How do you feel about the national school walkouts that will be taking place in March?
When I heard that was happening, my initial reaction was pretty positive. I am a big believer in exercising our democratic rights and our constitutional rights, and that is a constitutional right. And I really appreciate that these students of Florida, and I guess around the country, are actually taking a stand for something, because I feel a lot of times that my students just don't care about much at all. So for them to be that passionate about something, I think is a really positive thing. That being said, my fear would be that a random student in Sandpoint, Idaho, or anywhere else in the country that wasn't directly affected might just be taking advantage of a way to get out of school. And quite frankly, to me, that'd be pretty awful. You're basically taking advantage of a situation where people either lost their lives or lost loved ones or anything like that, and using it just to get out of school, and that just makes me cringe. And I would really encourage people not to do that. If you're passionate about something, I love when kids take stands, but if you're doing it simply because you think it's cool to get out of school, then don't do that.
Do you think that there should be stricter gun laws?
I think handguns are really where most violence occurs, but I think that if any gun laws are passed, it should in no way inhibit people from hunting, because that is a lot of way that people get food for their family throughout the year. And so I think that if any gun laws are passed, I think it should be more focused on towards mental illness and people that who can possess guns, rather than taking guns away from just the general population.
Do you support the Second Amendment?
I think the Second Amendment is an American right. It defends us from tyrannical governments, and I believe that I feel a lot safer knowing that I have possession of something that I can defend myself at a moment's notice in case someone breaks into my home or lands on the West Coast and marches into America, which hasn't happened ever. And I believe that that is a very strong reason why, is because every American citizen is relatively armed or could be armed in a moment's notice.
Do you think that there should be stricter gun laws?
I do believe that there should be stricter gun laws based on all the events that have been happening recently.
Do you support the Second Amendment?
I do, but to some extent. I'm surrounded by guns, living where we do, but to a degree, I think it's a bit lenient.
Do you think that teachers should be able to carry guns in schools?
Absolutely not. I would not feel comfortable being in a public place, especially in my daily life, with a gun so close. And some teachers, I wouldn't expect to be fully competent with the use of a gun.
Mm-hmm. And are you going to be participating in the school walkouts that are taking place?
I am. I think it's a good platform that is being used in it's being used in a smart way, and it's honoring people that have died in these unfortunate circumstances. So I think it's important to put yourself behind those kinds of things.
Do you support the Second Amendment?
I do, yes.
And why is that?
Just because I feel like everybody should bear arms, just for self-defense, and that.
Do you think that there should be stricter gun laws?
If you take guns away, it's not going to resolve anything, because, the drugs are illegal. People still get drugs.
Mm-hmm.
So,
what do you think we as a country can do to prevent gun violence and mass shootings?
there's nothing, you can't do really anything. It's there, if you basically, I don't know, that's actually a good question. Basically that if you, there's no reason, real reason, how you can prevent it. Obviously somebody's gonna do it, they're gonna break the law, they're gonna kill some people, it's just gonna happen. That's life,
Mm-hmm. Do you think that teachers should be able to carry guns in school?
To a certain extent, obviously you have to have training, and basically it kind of determines whether the teacher or not. George Arno, Steve Miller, obviously should carry guns, but certain teachers, I'm not going to say other names, but yeah, kind of.
And that wraps up another episode of CPTV.
Thanks for watching, and be sure to check out shscedarpost.com for more content.